just give your administrative speech before we start?
Sure. Just as a reminder for everybody to keep your phones on mute. And when we get to public communications, the chairperson will announce public communications, at which point we'll go through the folks who are on the computers who can unmute themselves one at a time. And then after the folks who are on their computers who can unmute themselves, if there's anybody who's calling in who will not be able to unmute themselves, I will unmute all the call-in users during public communication when the chair identifies that time as appropriate, and we will allow open dialogue over the phones. If you have questions or comments, we're finding that it's beneficial, especially for those who have computers, to please use the chat function to just raise your hand. Obviously raise your hand with the video, but you can also type in the chat function that you have a question, and I think the chairperson is monitoring that to ensure that she's getting everybody. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Yep, thank you very much, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Town Council meeting on Monday, June 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Could you call the roll, please?
Willis.
Here.
Paul Czaplinski.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo. Here. William Dietzick.
Here.
Tom Lombardi.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Victoria Triano.
Here. If no one minds, I'd like to do the prayer myself this evening, Madam Clerk, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
And also, it should be followed by a moment of silence today. We are remembering George Floyd and all those that have lost their life as a result of hatred, bigotry, and prejudice. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, and Father, our hearts are open and our hearts are weeping for those that suffer every day. Because of the color of their skin, or because of their beliefs, or because they're just different than what we think they should be. Father, we pray for your forgiveness tonight as a community and as individuals. And Father, we ask that you would guide and direct us tonight. Father, that the challenges that we face as a country and as a community, Father, only you can help us discern and move forward, loving peace and loving one another. And we pray this in your name. Amen. But let's have a moment of silence, please, for George Floyd and all of those who have lost their life at the hands of hatred, bigotry, and prejudice. Thank you, everyone. Would you please stand for the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. May I have a motion on the minutes from last meeting?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the Town Council minutes from May 26, 2020.
Thank you, Tom. You made the motion, and is that you, Bill, that seconded it?
I'll second.
Okay. Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, very good.
Chris Palmieri on the second, Chairwoman.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chris. I didn't realize it was you. We're going to move on to Councilmatic Communications. I'm going to start it this evening if I could. This past week, the past 2 weeks have been life-changing for some of us, and I wanted to take a moment and just thank those who organized, planned, and executed the rally on the Green on Monday. We had nothing to do with it. It was not our idea. It was born out of the hearts of people who want to be heard. It was an honor to be there, as other council members were there, and I want to acknowledge them. And I also want to acknowledge that we stand in solidarity with the protesters, and thank them for conducting themselves in a way that enabled us to hear a little better. I want to thank the police chief, Jack Daly, and the deputy chief, Paul Marai, who intervened at a very crucial moment. Members of the council who were able to make it. I know that if they could, all of the council would have been there. But Mr. Palmerai, Mr. Chaplinsky, Mr. Del Santo, Mr. Diedzik, and myself, Town Manager Mark Schoda, Town Police Commissioner Mr. Kalkowski were all there. I also want to say that at this juncture, we have received statements from Chief Jack Daly that I'm going to place in the record. I think I would like to read the chief's statement. If it takes a few minutes, please allow me this time. On Monday, June 1st, 2020, members of the Southington Police Department assisted with a peaceful protest in the center of Southington, organized by one of our citizens. We have all seen the videos from Minneapolis, where a man has lost his life during an encounter with the police, as well as the aftermath of those actions. These images are beyond disturbing and cast a stain over all law enforcement profession, and the dedicated men and women who strive to protect and serve in their communities with honor. As law enforcement officers, we recognize that the behavior of these in these videos reflect unreasonable action by all of the involved officers. The actions displayed by these officers is not consistent with proper police training. Of equal concern is the lack of intervention by other officers on the scene. We are reminded that we are leaders in our communities, especially during a time of crisis. Our oath and our ethics require us to act whenever we are witnessing an unjust act, even by another police officer. Unfortunately, these actions in Minnesota erode the layers of trust, confidence, and goodwill that so many of you have built within our communities. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. This is the foundation of our profession. Any violation of these core tenets is inexcusable. The Southington Police Department, along with the Board of Police Commissioners, will continue to strive to mend the wounds of the recent incidents and are committed to harmonious relationships with the members of our community. And it's signed Chief Jack Daly. The town of Southington also received a letter, a co-letter from Mr. Timothy Cannellan, who is our superintendent of schools, and Mark Schoda, our town manager. And it says this: to our community members, families, students, and staff members, the death of George Floyd and the events surrounding his death have shocked every member in this community and people of many colors in communities across the country. It is disheartening that our children must witness these events. Many of us witnessed the marches, the unrest, and the riots in the 60s and the 70s, and the Kent State Massacre. It is so hard to believe that after the last 50 years in this country, we have not been able to overcome the terrible specters of this racism and violence. While those of us without black or brown skin will never understand or experience the fear, pain, or suffering that exists for families of color in our community, we stand beside you to show you that we are collective we. We must continue to show solidarity and commitment to ending the racial inequities, disparities that have existed for so many years. Today, as one town, one community, we must support our families of color as recent weeks of senseless tragedy continue to highlight the racism, hate, bigotry that is rooted in communities across America. We cannot and will not keep silent. We must speak out against racism and violence in all its forms, regardless of the consequences. Our friends, our neighbors, our children deserve better than this from their country. As a community, our community knows and understands that during this time of crisis and unrest, we must come together to forge ahead as we find the essence of our humanity. We have done it before. Let us come together and actively challenge the structural and systematic practices that hinder the commitment of our country to creating an equitable, inclusive environment that focuses on the well-being of all of our citizens. We cannot be blinded any longer by injustice and pain. I received this today from the clergy in Southington, and I would like to read it. Reverend Dr. Ron Brown penned it. And it starts with Psalm 13, 1 and 2. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear the pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? As faith leaders in our beloved town of Southington, we lament with the psalmist, how long, O Lord? Once again, we have come to face with the evil of racism. And we lament, how long will the enemy, institutional racism, which devalues the lives of people of color, be allowed to exist? The murder of George Floyd by a white police officer who had sworn an oath to serve and protect all citizens brings into stark relief the reality of institutional racism. As clergy in the town of Southington, we call for all sectors of our community to commit to the eradication of racism. We call on the citizens of Southington to recognize that white privilege exists and to confess our complicity in the perpetuation of institutional racism. We further call on our community to reject racism, to stand in solidarity with people of color, and being bound together in love, declare that Black Lives Matter. In God's eyes, as it should be in ours, people of color are precious and loved. We deplore the violence perpetrated by institutional racism and vow to stand against it. To people of color, our neighbors in Southington and beyond, we want you to know that we see you. We ache to the depths of our soul as injustice after injustice unfolds. The insidious evil of racism manifesting itself in unemployment, poverty, police brutality, and even in life expectancies makes us weep. We pledge to work tirelessly to address issues of systematic and institutional racism. Without you, we are not whole. So we pledge to listen to you and to look deeply at ourselves. Yes, we call upon the Southington community to pray for the eradication of racism, but we must do much more than pray. Martin Luther King Jr. said that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. While we cannot instantly make the world safe and just, as clergy in the town of Southington, we pledge to sacrificially do our part to tug at the moral arc of the universe towards a just and truthful world for our neighbors who are people of color. I want to just list the names that signed this. Reverend Dr. Ron Brown from the First Congregational Church, Reverend Joseph Cronin from St. Thomas Parish, Reverend Paul Goodman from Plantsville Congregational Church, Congregational United Church of Christ, Reverend Sharon Holt, First Baptist Church, Father Cargill from Church of Mary Our Queen, the Reverend Joseph Krzyzinski from the Holy Trinity Polish National Catholic Church, Bishop Aaron Laurie of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Reverend Peg Lewis from First Baptist, Deacon Vincent Rabbi of St. Thomas Parish, Deacon John Thorpe from St. Aloysius Parish and Immaculate Conception Church, the Reverend Victoria Triano from Southington Care Center, the Reverend Donald P. Zebecki from St. Aloysius Parish and the Immaculate Conception Church. Those are all letters, but the one I want to now read to you is in conjunction with that. We as a town council have had some time to consider all of this, and we wish to make a statement before the town and a pledge before you. And I want to thank Councilwoman Val DiPaolo. She helped pen this, and we all were able to put our 2 cents in, but basically Val was the one that penned the statement. A time for action. To our Southington community, the Southington Town Council condemns the death of George Floyd at the hands of law enforcement officers, as well as the death of so many others whose lives were senselessly ended due to police brutality and racial injustice. We extend our deepest condolences to their families and communities. We are unified as a town council, and we stand together with all of those in our Southington community and beyond. People of all colors who are angered, outraged, and saddened by these individual tragedies. Further, we stand with all of those who are tired and feel a sense of hopelessness with the long-standing issues of racism, violence, and injustice in our country. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote from the Birmingham jail, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. This is a heartbreaking time, especially for individuals and families of color in our community. We recognize that as elected officials, we are accountable to foster the well-being of the people that we have the privilege to serve. We acknowledge that we must do more than express our feelings of sadness and outrage. This is a time not just to reflect, but of action. Let us commit to listen to each other with compassion and kindness. Let us commit to have the difficult conversations which may challenge our own biases, both conscious and unconscious. Let us commit to learn from each other in a non-judgmental manner. Finally, let us commit to speak up and condemn racism in all its ugly forms when we see it in our daily lives. At times of turmoil and tragedy, our statements and protests are important because they show our humanity and our desire to connect with others, to try to do something good. However, our actions going forward from there will speak much louder. If we unite and work for change by channeling not only our frustration, but our energy into meaningful action, we will provide hope that there can be equality and fairness for all people. We are at a crossroads, and this is our moment in time, right now. We ask you to raise your voices, and we will listen. Let us work together for change. And I would say that that speaks for every person on the council. And I know that we are dedicated to work together for change, and we are here to listen and be challenged. So those are the letters I've received at this point. I'm going to just take a break. I know that some counselors may have some statements that they would like to make personally. I want to give time for that. This is a time when we don't want to rush the agenda. This is the time when our hearts need to be open and that we need to speak to the people. The people need to hear our voice. We've been put in office for a purpose, not only just because we won an election, because I believe personally that we are placed exactly at this moment, at this time, for a divine purpose. And so I just want to open the floor. If someone has something to say, please raise your hand, and I will. Yes, Tom, would you like to start?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, I just want to also thank Councilwoman DiPaolo for the excellent letter that she drafted on behalf of the council. I also wanted to take a moment to thank the town manager and Kathy Larkin, the town clerk. Some of the letters that the chairwoman referenced, specifically from the town manager and the superintendent of schools, and then additionally the letter from the chief of police, have been posted to the town website homepage. So for the residents that have not had a chance to see it, it's on the homepage of the website. Secondly, thank you to Councilman Palmieri last year for placing me on the Southington Public Education, the Southington Public Schools Coalition for Social Justice. We've been having meetings up until the COVID-19 situation, but we've been meeting since 2019, and they also sent out a letter to Southington Public Schools and families. I'm not going to read the whole document, but I will forward it to the rest of the council members so they can see. But there's a lot of good work going on that committee, and there will be formal documentation forthcoming within the next few months. And lastly, I would ask that the chairwoman or the town manager make a request of the police chief to come to our next meeting to update, the council and the public on, obviously current issues, and maybe just give a brief update on, relevant practices and procedures that they have so that they can update the town. So if that's okay with you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
You are the town manager. Make that.
Yep.
That's all I had this evening, and thank you again.
Thank you.
to all of you.
I know that, Chris, I see, I'm going to bring you right in. I know that the police, I've had discussions with the police chief over the last few months, and then, of course, because of the situation. Our police officers go every 6 months for gun training and practice and everything. And at that time, their protocols are reviewed as far as lethal force and force in general, and they're retraining, trying to keep up on everything. So I would very much like to hear from the chief. Tom, thank you. Chris, you were going to say something?
Actually, almost an answer to what you said. I did reach out on a couple fronts just because I knew this was a topic tonight to give a couple updates. So first of all, aside from the committee that Tom mentioned that he served on representing the Council for the Board of Education, as we know, there's a town policy committee as well with Michelle Pastamano. I spoke to her to get an update on that. She plans on meeting in July and then in August and hopefully wrap things up. Both those committees were established long in advance, but there's still a lot of good work directly related to what we just spoke about. So I want to thank all the work of both committees for their quick resolution. And again, from the town perspective, Michelle said she has a meeting set for July and August, and hopefully it'll come. More specific to the police department, I spoke to Deputy Chief Palmieri to get an update, and you hit the nail on the head what you said. He explained to me they have a use of force policy. And the current police department's efforts are, all policies are living, breathing documents. Their best practice is to consistently review and revise those policies. So to your point, the excessive force policy was just updated December 9th, 2019.
Yep.
So they do have, in addition to that, there is training every year about the use of force. That's ongoing every single year, what's happening. And that the December 9th training related to the use of force policy was specifically related to an accreditation that they had to, the police department went for. So again, not in response to any of this, but just good practice and what's happening. So again, it's timely just to be able to share that. We can certainly have the police department come as well, but at least you have an update tonight in the meantime.
Absolutely. I think it's great. One of the things that was so moving on Monday night was the quality of our police force and how they were able to just remain calm and allowed the folks to raise their voices. There's a couple of people that are waiting to speak right now. Val, you wanted to make a comment about the police department, so I'm going to hear you first and then Michael.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, no, I wasn't going to make it specifically for the police department. Did you want somebody else?
No, I thought it said that, but maybe I misread it. So go ahead, Val, why don't you go ahead and take it then?
Okay, sure. I just wanted to just say thank you again for the opportunity to be able to prepare the letter. And I am really just very pleased that the council is unified on it. It was a privilege to write it, and really a time for me to reflect and really think about my own biases and my actions. So I truly hope that I know these groups are doing so well in town, both the school group, the coalition, and the town policy diversity committee. I hope that we can continue this work so that we don't let this moment just pass. That's my hope, is that we really band together and really keep the action items in front of us and have that goal to work towards of racial equality. So thank you so much for allowing me
to. There's times for politics and then there's times for not politics. And when you're looking at the welfare of a whole community, it's time to just put humanity in front of us. So. Yeah, very good. Michael, you had a comment, Mike?
Not related to this, Madam Chair. I was just like a regular council matter communication.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure if someone else had something that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things and close out my section, and then we can go right into other council matter communications if it's all right with you, Michael. Okay. What I wanted to say is that there are some things that I think we can do, and you know, just as we heard from the clergy, you know, I had hoped back in about a year and a half ago that we would have been able, almost 2 years now, but anyway, that we would be able to have town-sponsored forums or town halls concerning diversity. And you know, sometimes people don't even know that they're harboring feelings against certain people. And so I think the more we talk about and the more opportunities for education, the better it is. We had a few last year, but I would like to see more done. I am going to ask Reverend Dr. Brown from First Congregational Church and the members of the clergy if they would be so kind as to host the first of perhaps 4 meetings a year, and it will be probably during the next couple of months. We can't really get together right now, but I'm hoping towards the end of the summer that some of the restriction will be lifted and that we will be able to join together and start to have some meaningful conversations of education and cultural exploration. I think would be very important. The second thing I wanted to say is that there is a group called the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, and they are a national network of government agencies that focuses solely on equity and advancement. And I think that would be very important. Mr. Dietzick gave me some information on it, and I had an opportunity to look it over, and I'm very interested in it, and I would like to explore that a little bit further. In light of all of the things that we are doing, there are a lot of positive things going on, but I think what our statement says is that it's more than just saying we did a great job. There's so much work left to be done. You know, every culture in Southington needs to be open to be able to share their background, but also be ready to embrace other cultures, other colors, other traditions. And the only way that's going to happen is by us coming together as a community. So that's what I have for this particular part of Council Matter Communications. So is there anybody else that wants to add anything at this juncture to any of this? Paul Chaplinsky, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, just touching on a couple of the things that you already said. Appreciate the in-depth words that you put together earlier, and also wanted to say thanks to Councilperson DiPaolo for the communication and helping take the lead on penning the letter that we as a council stand firmly against the despicable acts that we've seen recently. And my hope also is that, you know, a number of the programs that we have, I had a great discussion with somebody who's on the Social Justice Committee that Chris Palmieri mentioned over the weekend, really good dialogue. And I had a real pleasure for those of you who don't have students in the school also, you know, be assured that there's a lot of dialogue in the schools going on about this too. And, you know, it was nice to come home from work today. My daughter was doing work late in the day because some of the systems were down, but we also had a chance to talk about racism and implicit bias and some of the studies that they're doing now in their freshman year as part of their curriculum. So I'm really happy to see that the dialogue is opening with the students that young of age as well. And it's important that, you know, if we're going to make an impact, we have to do things with the younger kids too that can understand, and we have to get them going in the right direction early in life. So I'm very thankful for the Southington Public Schools and the work that they're doing there as well.
It's wonderful. Thank you. I don't see any other comments concerning this section. Is everybody all set? So let's move on. Councilman Del Santo, please, could you,
I'm sorry. Chris
continue?
Palmer, I had something, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, did you have something else?
First of all, just because before we get too far away, and I know you called for a moment of silence, but I'm hoping we can just take a moment maybe of reflection for Carl Verderam. He was a long-serving member
Yes.
of the Planning and Zoning Commission, served for more than 25 years, and was a former chairman of that commission. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to first, and I have one other thing too, but if we could maybe have a moment of
Yes, I think that'd be wonderful. I knew Carl for my whole life. Absolutely, sure. Let's take a moment and just take a moment to remember Carl. Thank you, everybody. Chris?
Yes, and the second is a bigger topic related to everything that we've been saying. And Vicky, as you started off, you know, I had the pleasure to be with you and really Bill. I spent a lot of time with you and Bill at the rally. And you know, it really is a time for reflection. And you know, I know we all went there out of a show of support. And a true belief. I'm also really pleased with the fact that we have a letter signed by all 9 of us that shows we're united. I also think, you know, thinking back in a bipartisan manner, looking more globally, and I transition this way, thinking of, you know, the next item on the agenda where we're talking about writing a letter to the governor. And I think of 2 former presidents, President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama, who called on the nation to end systemic racism, again, in a bipartisan manner. Again, I know we're talking about tonight a letter to the governor. I would propose that this council take some first town council in the state, maybe even in the country, and draft a letter to the president of the United States, of the White House, and thinking about some of the actions that have occurred are appalling. You know, making comments if the looting starts, the shooting starts, calling leaders grossly incompetent that are standing up for against racism. Senator Romney stated, we need many voices against racism and against brutality. We need to stand up and say Black Lives Matter. Trump responded by a negative tweet against him. Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine calling on Trump to help heal the racial divide. Former Secretary of State Colin Powell strongly criticizing Trump's handling of anti-racist protests, saying he has drifted away from the Constitution. Again, I would say maybe we could be the first town council in the state of Connecticut, in the country, to send a letter to the White House, a strong message that we are opposed to some of his messaging and how he has handled the situation. We heard at the rally Monday night, and just thinking about standing by and being a bystander versus being an upstander. And it's not right to listen to leaders make statements like that. And I believe fully, I would hope that maybe that's something we can stand united for and take it one step further.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody, I see Bill Dietzig also wants to make a comment. Bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I would if I could. So I want to share my experience that I had on Monday at the peaceful protest downtown. So again, I don't want to misrepresent the facts. I didn't go down to the event initially to be involved. I was just wanted to go be an observer. And further, I didn't participate until being asked multiple times. So, you know, I don't want to misrepresent that. You know, I went down there with that initial tension. However, I did participate. And, you know, I just want to share, I thought the most compelling part of the entire evening was listening to the speakers. I think I listened to almost every single person speak. And, you know, they were young. Many were current or former Southington students. And they went into detail about their experiences with discrimination. You know, some of these kids were almost into tears. So look, as a parent and as a former Southington student, I was very moved. I mean, look, going to school in your formative years is hard enough, but being bullied on a bus because of your skin color, I mean, it was heartbreaking. And again, I mean, as a parent, imagine that being your child, but imagine your child being the aggressor. And I was moved. So, look, overall, I was very moved by the event. And I want to compliment the organizers because, they made a claim that it was going to be peaceful and they owned up to it. So they deserve credit. I'm also very proud of Councilwoman DiPaolo and this entire council. It's nice to have, some bipartisan support, and her words were beautiful. But look, I don't want it to end with just a letter being read into the record. So I had about a week, and I had a really, really good conversation with someone whom I have a great deal of respect for, a significant experience in the instant subject matter. So I just wanted to discuss two main takeaways I had from my conversation with her. So the first is listening. Each of us who's in a leadership position or somebody who just wants to help, the first step is you need to just listen. And you can't be a passive listener. All right. So you can't be a passive listener. And when it's convenient and the conversation comes to you, you need to seek out opportunities and be an active listener. And look, overall, listening it's the prelude to a larger conversation, which is what we all want to have as a nation. So, one suggestion she said is, look, start a community reading group or discussion group where certain articles or essays or blogs are distributed and they're read by leaders of the town, and they're just discussed, they're not debated. This encourages active listening. And again, on a personal level, I would be happy to participate in something like this. The second takeaway I had is that we as a council need to make sure that there are no voices being unintentionally silenced. We need to make sure that we have a way for anyone in this town who wants to have their voice heard, have it heard. I'm not trying to shake up the current structure of our public communication, but I will concede that I think it has unintended consequences of sometimes discouraging individuals, who may not have the confidence to get up and, walk up to a podium in a public setting. That's not easy. So look, I mean, I don't have a solution, but one thing maybe we can discuss. Look, maybe we utilize our private, our messaging feature on our town council Facebook page with access to both sides. I don't know what the solution is, but I think it's important as a council, a priority, that we make sure as many voices are being heard as possible, and that we're not unintentionally silencing anybody. And I also want to say, I was very happy to walk with Chris Palmeri. What people sometimes see up on the dais, they think it may be bickering or arguing, but, and even during political campaign season. But, at the end of the day, I have a tremendous amount of respect for every single person up here. So I just want to end with that and say I was very honored to walk with him.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? I don't think anybody else has anything to say. Other councilmatic communications, anybody?
Madam Chair, I have something. This is Mike Del Santo.
Yes, Mike. Thank you. Please come on in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very nice words from everyone, and Councilwoman DiPaolo, thank you for penning the letter. Excellent. I do want to share, I had the opportunity to get on the Chamber of Commerce call meeting last week, and I was invited as the chairperson of the Long-Term Recovery Committee. And we had a great dialogue with some of the businesses in town, some questions that were asked. So I just wanted to, once again, I'm the broken record at these meetings. If we can please support local. We're slowly coming out of this. The next phase of opening is the 17th of June for lots of things. 50% capacity indoors at restaurants, which still a lot of restaurants in town are going to be struggling. So continue to order out, continue to purchase gift cards, make appointments for the future if you can. I am happy to say that I was downtown, drove downtown a couple of nights, Thursday night and Friday night, and it was very exciting to see all the people down on Lower Center Street outside eating. It's just wonderful. I happened to be downtown on Saturday afternoon and spoke with some of the businesses down there, and they had asked me if they can continue to keep Lower Center Street open at least until they are at allowed to have full capacity. I discussed it with the town manager, and Mark is so open to everyone's suggestions, and Mark said it shouldn't be a problem. So we're hoping to keep Lower Center Street open at least until the restaurants are allowed to be at full capacity. And they were so happy to hear that, because in some instances it doubled the amount of tables that they can serve. So it's very, very important. I want to send the message again to ensure that we are shopping locally and we are helping out the businesses in town who have really taken a beating these last 2 or 3 months. And hopefully, as hospitalizations go down and testing goes up, we can come out of this thing and be whole again at some point.
Excellent.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Del Santo. Any other council matter communications? I have 2 very short ones. Well, one is very short.
If I
Yes, go ahead,
can
Paul.
just make a comment, just as a point of order. There is somebody who's attending whose name is Joe, and I'm not sure if you're intending on showing your screen and what you're showing on the internet, but we just wanted to let you know that you are sharing publicly your desktop. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Paul. I just wanted to say that in light of all of the events that have happened over the last 2 weeks, that was my intention to get those Distinguished Services Awards out about almost a little more than 2 weeks ago, and we have not done that. They will be out this week. For those of you that remember, I made a list up. There's more coming, but we're back on track now. The last thing I wanted to bring up right now, certain members of the town council, some of them have written a letter requesting that. Let me just read it to you, and it's to the governor. Dear Governor Lamont, we, the members of the Southington Town Council, are writing you this letter on behalf of the business owners and the citizens of the town of Southington. We, as representatives of the town of Southington, recognize the state's guidelines set to preserve and protect the safety of its citizens and the preparedness to minimize the growth and spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the tiered opening of the state on what it recognizes as essential workplaces. Please let this letter serve as notice that we believe that all of Southington's businesses are organizations and organizations that are essential for the overall prosperity of our community and economy. The town of Southington, through its leaders and at the direction of the town's public health department, has worked diligently throughout this pandemic to protect the safety of its citizens and aided in the safe reopening of many businesses pursuant to the local and state guidelines. At this time, the town of Southington requests that you, through the powers as governor of the state of Connecticut, would grant our request to allow Southington businesses, organizations, and government entities that are willing and ready to open to do so effective immediately. The criteria to open these businesses, organizations, and government entities would follow the state guidelines set for PPE, including social distancing, and would require a verification by the town's public health director and the department staff confirming that all state standards have been met. I appreciate your prompt attention to our request and look forward to your response. Very truly yours, Victoria Triano. And I would just say we're going to have an opportunity. I'm going to entertain. It is on our agenda for action, and we'll take comments at that time. We've had a lot of comments at this time, but I did want to read it into the record. And
Madam Chair,
I see that.
I'll defer on all my other comments, but one statement I want to make is, because it was public, the letter that was in the council packet had my name on it, and I had not seen this letter.
Right,
So I did not give permission to put my name on that. So I want that clear.
I had said that you were also going to be, if you wanted to, you would be on it. But you know what, Chris, if we're going to take a vote, and of course, if you're not in favor of this resolution, then we take your name off, and only those individuals that would be voting in the affirmative would have their name on the letter. Please, I would never put your name on something that you did not believe in. I thought that we would be together on this. However, if there's not that, we will certainly remove your name. We would never want to represent something that you don't believe in.
Okay, and I would just ask in the future, if we're going to do something like that, that I be consulted before
I
not
did
after, because
I did talk to you about it. I did say we were going to do this. And I said, if you want to, the two of us will sign it. And so, and we sent it out. If you're not into it, that's fine, Chris. I don't want to get.
No, Vicky, I need to clarify. That's not what you said. What you said is you would hope that all 9 of us would be voting together. You did
Right.
not tell me that you wanted my signature on it. So I want to be clear, that is not what you said. And I said to you, I need to see it in advance before I can commit to anything. And you said you would get it to me well in advance. And the first time I saw it was when the public and press saw it, when it was released.
The
So
packet.
that's my concern.
Yeah, the packet. Well, thank you, Chris. We remember things differently on this then, but certainly, of course, there's no reason for your name to be on it if you're not supporting it. So I apologize if there was a misunderstanding. I thought I had made it clear, but that's all right. So we're going to continue on, and you can make the rest of your comments at a later time during the agenda. Is there anything else before we close off council matter communications? Hearing none, I'm going to go into the report of special committees, and the first one is open space.
Hi, Mr. Chair, Paul Chaplinsky. We got a lot of activities going on with open space. What I'd like to do is turn over the update. This time we have some really good news. I'm going to turn the update over to Chris Palmieri. He's been working hard to get some things working with some grants. So Chris, floor is yours.
So first and foremost, if you haven't had an opportunity, and I know some of them were posted on Southington Talks, related to the educational component of LEAP. Obviously, we're in distance learning, and some of the field trips that traditionally have gone on with the Southington schools at the site and or have been led by Mark Ramsey with content-specific material have not been able to occur. So Mark created a series of 5 educational videos, one of which was a tour of the facility, another related to bees, and so 5 videos were created. They were posted on Southington Talks, just again, we have such an asset with what Mark does in this community. I'm extremely grateful for everything he does, and it seems from the response that many people are appreciative as well. And I know our students are all benefit. He works closely with John Duffy, who is the science coordinator for the district, and just great things going on there. In addition to that, I'd like to thank the Community Foundation of Greater New Britain. They awarded LEAF a $50,000 grant, which will go a long way for the efforts to maintain the operations of LEAF, to do things like what I just mentioned, which is furthering the education for the community. So we really have a great asset in our community, and it's great news to be able to share that with the council.
Okay.
Do you want to give any update on the structure for the Pleasant View, or you want to wait on that?
The shed, Paul?
Yeah.
So last year, I think I mentioned this at a prior council meeting, we have through a partnership with the Southington school system, specifically the construction class at Southington High School, and a donation that we received for the materials. Students at the high school through the construction class built and constructed a shed that will be relocated from the high school down the street to the Pleasant Street property next to DePaulo. So again, all free of charge to residents, learning activity for the students at the high school, and donation. We can celebrate the donor at a later time once we move that shed. But again, all great news. We, as you know, adopted the master plan, so the location will be according to the master plan that the council approved.
So thanks, Chris. I appreciate that, and thanks for the awesome work you're doing with the LEAF program and the farm heritage. Madam Chair, we're really working hard to promote farming. The committee voted to allow a local to develop a plan that he gives back to the community, a community garden, and in turn we allow them to make a garden. We're going to be using the Academy Street property for that, a small area. So he's going to revitalize that property and get it to a way that when he's done in, say, 2 years, once we come to a final agreement, it hasn't been agreed upon yet, that he will leave the property in a way that others can use it and that we can enjoy it for farming in the future. We have a lot going on with maintenance. We do think we're going to have goats shortly on the Novix property, so helping to clear some properties there. So from a maintenance perspective, working diligently. And then the last thing I'll say is, I think everybody knows we've made a couple purchases so far this year, and we have other irons in the fire. You know, we're really looking at strategic parcels that are a strong fit for the town. So, you know, we've got a few different things that we're working on, and the team has been active in looking for these opportunities. So overall, very active time for the open space and farm heritage activity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Paul, for all your work on open space. You are like the Energizer Bunny, I think, sometimes. Just you keep moving along. It's great. Appreciate the report. Public Works, Mike Del Santo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a meeting last week. A couple of the highlights from that meeting are the bulky waste transfer station has been very, very busy. 2 Saturdays ago, they had 1,100 vehicles. Now, that was a week after Memorial Day. But I have to really compliment the staff and the Southington Police Department. They kept things moving. I go to the transfer station a lot, and I was down on Mulberry Street, and I thought I was going to have my lunch in the car, but we flew through. We were in and out. I was in and out. I was on Mulberry Street and was out of there within 30 minutes. So I really have to compliment the Highway Department staff and the Southington Police Department. They really keep a really good job there keeping the cars moving. So I want to commend them for that. I did receive an email, though. I actually saw a post on social media with regards to some of the residents who do live on Old Turnpike Road. And they were pretty disappointed in some of the cars that are in line waiting for the transfer station blocking their driveways. So I did bring it up to Annette and to Gabe, and she was going to speak with Officer Schneider from the traffic division of the Southington Police Department about possibly putting up some temporary signs on Saturdays just along the way on Old Turnpike Road, so folks are not blocking driveways. You'd think that should just come natural, but I guess it doesn't. If someone's trying to get to their house or trying to leave their house on a Saturday morning, if you're in line for the transfer station, be kind, folks. Just back up, pull forward. Don't block driveways if you can avoid it at all costs. Okay, so more to follow there, but there may be some signage going up in the very near future. The Highway and Parks Department 2020 road projects are well underway. There's 3 contractors working right now on drainage repairs. Tilcon is scheduled at the end of June, beginning of July for some of the projects. The Southington High School parking lot project is well underway. They're adding around 80 new spaces up at the high school, so things are plugging along there. The Memorial Park Concession building renovation is underway this week, so they're getting started on that. The Memorial Park Playscape is underway. It's going well. It looks really cool. The dog park is having some renovations. They're moving the entrance from the west end to the east end. And I'm sorry. Hello.
Hello.
Am I still on?
I think you are, but the screen has changed a little bit.
I'm seeing someone's taking over the screen here. I think.
It looks like Richard Cooper is sharing his screen. If you can turn your.
Yeah. That's fine. I can keep talking if everyone can hear me. I don't want to look at my face anyway. So the dog park is moving their entrance from the west end to the east end. They're removing some trees and they're putting up some new fencing now. And there's a bid that went out for the resurfacing of the tennis and basketball courts at all the parks. And during the meeting, we did made a motion to recommend a company to resurface the tennis courts and the basketball courts. And we heard from the water department during the meeting that the water department is back full strength, except for office staff. They are putting up some glass shielding to protect office staff. The Mill Street tank project is moving forward. The hopes that the town, Southington Water Department communication antennas are installed around July 1st. Other than that, any questions with regards to Public Works? I'm looking at a blank screen here. I don't know. Have we been hijacked or what?
We're all looking at a blank screen.
Okay.
Hi, Richard Cooper, if you can please stop sharing your desktop.
Looks like Councilwoman DiPaolo has a question. Go ahead, Val.
Oh, I can't see her.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you. No,
I
please.
took over,
Thank
Madam
you,
Chair. Sorry.
Thanks, Mike. I know I keep anyway. Mike, is the resurfacing for the tennis courts and the basketball courts, is that at all of the, at the park?
At the 3 major parks. Yes.
Okay, great.
Thorn Memorial and Rec Park, Val. Yep.
Okay,
If I may, can I speak on this?
Yes, Mark, of course.
Yes. Val, this was phase 2 of the town master plan for the park. We appropriated the $770,000. This is one of numerous things we're doing at all 3 parks on phase 2. So I'd be happy to share that. That should be on the website, but happy to give it to you on each phase of our parks. But yes, we planned on doing work at every one of the parks. If you remember correctly, the old plan called for doing one park at a time. And we looked at that last year, and we decided to do work at every one of the parks at the same time. So to answer your question, that's going to be taking place at all 3 parks, plus other projects for all 3 parks as we go on with the 5-year master plan.
great. Thank you,
Great.
Mark. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager.
I'm sorry, does anybody have anything else to say on this? Mike, I just want you to please extend our gratitude to the employees that are on that every Saturday working so hard at the transfer station. It really is quite an operation, and they do work very, very hard. I know the police have also been there helpful, also been trying to help out too. So absolutely. Okay.
Well-oiled machine, Madam Chair.
Well, we appreciate your updates.
And interestingly enough, whenever I'm there, I always see folks getting out of their cars and helping other people. So it's a nice community event too.
It is.
People
yes.
helping people lug mattresses and big heavy doors into the bin. So everyone is very nice up there.
Yeah, that's
One of my
great.
favorite places.
Thank you so much.
An exciting life.
All right. Right now, we have the Apple Advisory Committee. I believe Dave LaPrey is going to speak. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, Dave should be on. Just obviously for the public who does not know, Dave is the coordinator for the Apple Harvest Festival. So Dave will speak on behalf of the committee. Dave?
Dave, I have to tell you that the entire town of Southington is on listening to you at this moment.
I bet they are.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous.
I bet they are. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, council members. As mentioned, Dave LaPrey, I'm the Director of Recreation as well as the Apple Harvest Festival Coordinator. Just to give you an update on where we stand with the festival at this point. Last Wednesday, June 3rd, we had a Apple Harvest Advisory Committee meeting. During that meeting, we discussed what our plans are moving forward for the 2020 festival. Obviously, we're dealing with a pandemic. I'm sure most of you have heard a lot of fairs, festivals around the state have been canceled to date already. So at that point, I addressed the committee with where we stand financially, which I'll touch base in a few moments about that. But first and foremost, our number one priority is the safety and health of our community. And as a festival coordinator putting this together, we start in January. This doesn't start 2 months before, a month before. This starts the beginning of the year. And we're ready to go normally. June timeframe, June 1st is our deadline for applications for vendors. So by August, September, we're locked and loaded, ready to go. So like I said, we attract over the 2 weekends of our festival. If we have 6 good days of weather, we can bring in 100,000 people. That's a lot of folks, considering what we're dealing with mass gatherings and so forth. The CDC guidelines, obviously fairs and festivals, that's the last thing on their radar to allow. I've spoken with Shane Lockwood, our health director, gotten his input. So we gotta take that into consideration. As a coordinator, I don't want to put the health and risk of our festival goers, like I said, our community, our volunteers, our staff, our vendors. That's important to me, and I think we should really consider that. Secondly, financially, I'll tell you where we stand with that. Our main revenue generators are our vendor booths, our sponsorships, then so forth. After that, we got our carnival revenue as well as beverages, water, soda, etc. but our two main ones are our booth revenue and sponsorships. So for this year in our budget, what's budgeted to bring in for revenue for booths is $110,000. To date, we have $25,000 in change. That's a difference of almost $85,000. As far as sponsorships goes, that's led by Melissa Kukuza from A Balanced Life. She has stressed and given her opinion to the committee last week, her struggles as far as getting businesses to pony up money. To date, she has $1,000 in from a budgeted amount of $60,000. So we're off $59,000 there. That itself, without a pandemic, would cancel a festival any other year. So that's what we're looking at. It's not an easy decision. It's not something I wanted to do. Obviously, you know, as a rec director, I'm affected by a lot of programs this year. Having to cancel those is not something that's on the top of my list, but these are tough decisions, and for the safety and the consideration of our vendors and what they're going to be putting up money-wise, they have to make decisions to buy product for this festival shortly. So at this point, that's my recommendation, and I'm passing it along to you. The committee agreed with me, all of them, at last Wednesday's meeting, and I'm passing that along to you that unfortunately my recommendation is to cancel the 2020 festival.
Okay, so would you please, David, entertain some questions? I think there may be folks that have questions, and I'm sure there are people out there that have questions. If we have anything that we would like to ask David as he represents his advisory committee, I want to open up the floor for any questions. Anybody?
Madam Chair, can I just make a point?
Of course. Yep.
Thank you, Dave, for the explanation. Just for the other members of the council and the public, the Apple Harvest Advisory Committee met on June 3rd. Our first meeting was an executive session to discuss contractual matters, which the festival coordinator, Dave LaPre, was not involved in. And then we went into a regular meeting, which we discussed the items that Dave just brought up to us. So just to let everybody know, we did have executive session that night as well.
Okay, very good.
Madam Chair, if I can just make a comment too.
Yes, too. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to commend Dave. Obviously, it's not easy coming on and giving that recommendation. But as you heard, he's taken a lot into account, sought a lot of input, tried to base the decision on data, on statistics, on facts, on the health and welfare of our residents. So, Dave, I appreciate, you know, I know it's not easy, but I appreciate you bringing to us all the relevant information we need to make an informed decision.
You bet.
Anyone else?
Comment.
I know there.
Madam
Yes,
Chair,
go ahead,
real
Paul.
quick,
Go ahead.
Dave, thanks for coming. Appreciate. I know it's a difficult. It's a very passionate topic for everybody, so it's a very difficult decision to make. But I appreciate you guys having, you know, last meeting, Tommy. You know, we talked about, you know, having some of the meeting in executive session, but also in the public domain. So I appreciate you guys, you know, having that debate. Will we have any opportunities, Dave? You know, I know this is an unprecedented year. Will we be able to possibly look for other creative ways to get recreation activities within the community that might be safe, either remote? And this is even beyond the Apple Harvest. Are there communications with other towns that might be also thinking about creative ways to redeploy recreation type activities to the communities, you know, whether it's like picking up of materials and doing remote recreation stuff, or is there more stuff going on from your side that might be of interest to the community that we could use the opportunity to also give an update on?
Yeah, so we're going off. This is Apple Harvest related, correct?
It is, you know, and I think some of the concern is, you know, Apple Harvest is a big piece of activity in the fall time, and I think a lot of people are talking about baseball. We're getting emails about softball. And, I think, I'm a big proponent of allowing people to do things that are safe. If we can do it, let's do it, and let's do it safe,
Yeah, no, I
And
agree.
so my biggest question is, are there other activities, or, maybe, I don't know, Madam Chair, maybe it'd be more appropriate to invite or have Dave send a memo back to us if we don't want to talk about those now, or a different time. But I just think it would be good to maybe let the community know if there's other potential things that we might be filling in the gap that maybe we wouldn't normally do, but that maybe we're considering as far as the recreation is concerned.
Well, I'm going to leave it in David's hands.
Well, yeah, sure. I have no problem commenting on that. Yeah, Paul, I'm not opposed to doing, listen, I'm hopeful I can run many programs this summer. It's not like I cancel the full slate of things. We're still open to doing the swim lessons. I'm looking at doing virtual camps online, tennis programs if we can, Zumba in the park, yoga in the park, stuff like that. Of course, I haven't totally shut down my department by any stretch. So I'm
It's
open
good
to
for people. It's good for people to know about those things, because I think that there is a perception that, everything is shutting. And I think if we can continue to promote some of those other things, that would be very beneficial.
Of course. Yep.
Anything we can do, just let us know.
That's great. Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for Dave?
Madam Chair, Mike Del Santo.
Yes, Mike.
Once again, I want to commend the Apple Harvest Committee, the advisory committee. Not an easy task. Just a couple of quick stories. I was on the original planning committee for the Italian American Festival that we have, the Southington Italian American Festival. And one year, I served 3 or 4 years. And one year it rained a couple of days, and it was bad. So the next year, 6 months ahead of time, we're trying to get booths, we're trying to get vendors, and a lot of the participants were a little gun shy. They said, well, it rained last year, we lost money, we don't want to do it. So we were scrambling. Luckily, it worked out, and the festival still is great to this day. So I know what they're going through. It's a scary thought to think that, oh my God, we're going to have this festival and nobody wants to participate because the problem with this virus is we don't know what we don't know. And the last thing we wanted to do is, I imagine they want to do, is take money from folks and who do want to participate and then have to cancel it a month ahead of time. So I know it wasn't an easy decision to make. And after being a lifelong resident of the town of Southington, in my 48 years, I've been to the apple harvest, every single one of them. And the last thing I want is the shell of an apple harvest. I want the apple harvest. I want to eat a steak sandwich and eat sausage and eat fritters and eating. But, I want to go to the carnival and enjoy it with my kids. I want to have, the entire apple harvest. So I know it wasn't an easy decision, and I commend the advisory committee for what they did. So that's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. All right. I think we're going to move on. Oh, I'm sorry. Chris, go ahead.
Tom and I really want to stand united, and I know Mark's with us too. We also would be remiss. Part of the executive session that we mentioned, both Dave and Julia, Dave as the coordinator and Julia as the assistant coordinator, volunteered to stop their payment for the festival, even though we already entered into a contract with them. That'll be effective July 1st, depending on the vote tonight. The three of us, again, sitting here, as well as the rest of the committee, stand united and our thanks and appreciation, Dave. In addition to that, Melissa, who's a sponsorship coordinator, part of her contract is we give her an amount up front, and that's so that she can go out and actively solicit some sponsors. She agreed to roll that over to next year's festival as well, essentially, freezing compensation as well, and just deferring that to next year's festival. So all three of them, we need to thank them for their efforts. They're really working together with the town. And again, they already had contracts, but they decided to do that for us voluntarily.
That's great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to self-insurance. Thank you, Dave. We're going to self-insurance. Tom Lombardi.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Self-Insurance Committee met also on Wednesday, June 3rd. Councilman Poulos and myself were in attendance. There was no action taken. It was a long discussion. what we're dealing with on the self-insurance front is that effective July 1st of this year, Anthem is changing part of their program to cover some individuals diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So these are additional services that would be provided under our current Anthem plan. Basically, there was a long discussion. Our consultant went through some of the details on it. We had some questions for the consultant, and I think the consultant also had some questions. So he's going to get back to us at our next meeting. I can't remember off the top of my head when our next meeting is, but it will be an issue that will be voted on at the self-insurance level and then come to the council. So I think from listening and learning about this situation, I think my biggest concern is that are other carriers offering these same services? Because we didn't want to offer up a service under our health insurance plan. And then, as you all know, we go out to bid every couple of years on our health insurance. If another carrier isn't providing these services, we may get into a jam. So some of the details are going to get ironed out, and we will report back at our next meeting. The other thing was we discussed possibly going out for RFP again this year. No decision was made. We are again going to discuss that. Councilman Poulos, do you remember the date of our next meeting?
We need to meet before the end of June. They're sending out a poll on the exact date.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I had to report on self-insurance, unless Councilman Poulos had anything else.
No, very thorough report, Councilman Lombardi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. All right. Any other committees? No. Okay, very good. Let's move on to the town manager's report, please. Our first item is the health department. Shane, are you with us? Is Shane still with us?
Sorry, you couldn't hear me. I think I have to unmute Mr.
Okay.
Blackwood. Hold on. Okay, Shane, you're good. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. As always, we are seeing a steady, sustained decline in the cases, not just in the health district, but throughout the state. While obviously there's new cases popping up, we are starting to see a decline. Unfortunately, like the rest of the state right now, we're still experiencing some fatalities among our older residents. So every day I can still continue to go and look at all the data, and we're looking at starting more follow-up on the cases as they come in. Phase 1 reopenings, as Councilman Dos Santos mentioned, went, I think, well. The outdoor dining, we received maybe a handful of complaints. In each case, we called the business owner and just kind of restated the governor's guidelines, and they were all fixed very quickly, and no serious issues have been discovered. Same with hair salons. They reopened on June 1st, and we haven't had any issues with that. Phase 2, as was mentioned, is starting on June 17th. The health district has been emailing, faxing over 600 licensed establishments to keep them up to date on the guidelines. This includes everything from the restaurants, the gyms, hotels, public pools, letting them know to check out ct.gov/coronavirus or our website for the latest guidelines. And we're also calling certain places to let them know the expectation. So right now, I think we're well on track for phase 2 to go as well as phase 1. While we're seeing the positives right now with the disease trend, I cannot stress enough to our residents and visitors to continue to practice the social distancing, the hand washing. And right now, the most important thing right now is staying home if you're sick. We see businesses reopening, offices reopening. What we want people to do is stay home if you're sick. We don't need you at work in an environment where you potentially might make others sick. So please follow those. And the last thing I want to mention is I want to thank our friends at the Connecticut Sikh Association up on West Street. The members of the temple have been donating masks, meals, and gift cards to those in need during the pandemic. They've always been great and a pleasure to work with. And once again, they're stepping up to help our communities. This Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the members will be distributing free masks to those who need them. This is going to happen at the South End School. The public's going to remain in their cars, and the members of the temple will kind of toss a bag of masks into the vehicle as they come by. Myself and the police department have been meeting with them for this event, and we look forward to this great opportunity. And we're going to have a press release up on the town website tomorrow to provide the information for this event. So we're looking forward to that.
That's
and
wonderful.
Then my report.
Excellent. Thank you for the update. And it's good to see the sustained decline. And I know there are still issues out there, but just hearing you say that gives me great hope. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to Shane, ask him a question, what have you? Anybody have a question for Shane? I'm looking for hands. I don't see any. Hearing no one. Shane, I think that is your report. Does anybody want to ask Shane anything? Shane, thank you so much for being with us tonight and giving us that report. We appreciate your time, effort, and your expertise as always. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Mark, going on to section 5310.
Yes, the next item I have is every couple of years we apply for a calendar house bus. As most of you know, the Dial-A-Ride program is one of our major success stories in this town. So we try and keep the buses up to par. So we're going to be trying to replace the 2015 bus. So they're going to be applying for a grant for $70,000. As usual, it's going to be an 80-20 type split. They're working for $56,000, and we already have $17,000 in the capital line for 1920 in anticipation of getting the grant. Obviously, we need the council's approval to apply for the grant, so that's what we're looking for today. Any questions on that?
Any questions, anybody? I don't hear any. Mark, go ahead.
Madam Chair, traditionally I do this in person, but since council meetings are on the WebEx system, I'm going to have to do this way. I have two very positive announcements to announce to you tonight. First of all, Peter Stallings, for those of you who have never got to work closely with Peter, he came to Southington. In fact, we begged Peter to come to Southington and pulled him out of retirement because we had an issue at Water Pollution Control, and we had a transition in management down at Water Pollution Control, and we knew that we were going to be going through a construction process, which certainly Bill Dietzick and his committee are on top of. With that in mind, Peter has given to the town more than we can ever expect. But like all of us, Peter would now like to step down. So a week ago, he announced to me that he'd like to retire on June 30th. Back in 2017, knowing that we wouldn't have Peter do this forever, we hired a gentleman named Kari Williams in the position of assistant superintendent. Our goal all along was to hopefully have Kari step into that position when the time came. With that in mind, I had the honor of meeting with Kari last Wednesday with Victoria and Michelle, and we offered Kari that position of superintendent of water pollution control starting July 1. And I'm happy to say that he has agreed to accept that position. Everyone who's worked with Kari, whether it be his staff or administration or outside contractors, certainly talk nothing but positive about Kari. So let me first have Peter make a few comments because he is going to be our outgoing superintendent. So Peter, could you make a couple of comments for us?
Sure. Well, first I'd like to say that it was a great opportunity that I had to work with the town of Southington. I found the staff to be extremely professional and very cooperative. It was really a great experience. One of my best working experiences of my working career. So I leave with a real high impression of Southington. And the fact that they were forward thinking, and we brought Kari on, and I'm just so confident that he's more than capable to handle and move which is becoming quite a complex system of pollution control forward. So again, my appreciation to everybody that I've worked with, and my best wishes for Kari and the town moving forward. And I'm sure it's going to be fine.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter, I just want to say thank you from the town. We extend best wishes for a wonderful retirement. When Mark said he begged you to come, that was not fluff. We needed you. We wanted you so much. And we are so grateful that you put off retiring for a little bit of time so that you could help us. You have raised the expectation even higher for Kari. So we're just very thankful for you, Peter, and wish you nothing but the very best. I have a little bio, but basically your experience was in wastewater field spans over 47 years. That's quite a run. And we're just so grateful to be part of that 47 years. Best wishes and have a wonderful retirement, Peter.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Madam Chair, I now, most of you already met Kari, of course. He's been in front of the council on several occasions, but I'd like to introduce to you for a couple of words the newest department head for the town of Southington, Kari Williams.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I just want to say thank you, and I'm excited to get started. And I think that I'm a hard worker. I worked real hard to get here, and I honestly think I deserve it. I've had a lot of help along the way. A few people that I want to say a quick special thank you to. For one is my father. He's currently in the field. He's a foreman down in Bridgeport. He's the person who pretty much introduced me to the field and got me into the field. Also, my first boss, Mark Barrows, down in North Haven. He gave me my first opportunity in the field, gave me training as an operator, and really showed me the ropes and how things work in water pollution control. I'd like to thank Mark, the town manager, for giving me this opportunity. We got a lot going on in Southington WPC. We got the upgrade going on. We have fuel cells about to be installed. We have Blatchley lift stations about to be demoed. We have some future lift stations that are going to be upgraded pretty soon. So we have a lot going on, and the fact that Mark is, I guess, giving me this responsibility says a lot about the confidence he has in me, and I really do appreciate it. I'd like to thank also Keith Hayden and Jim Capone. They've always been very helpful, and also town staff at WPC. Without them, we don't get any work done. Everything that I think of, without them, it'll just be a thought and will never get accomplished. So I'm very happy and satisfied with my staff. But most importantly, out of everybody, I wanted to thank Pete. Pete really showed me the ropes and helped me out with my transition from operator to management. Before I got this position, I had no idea how different operations and management were. And without Pete, I probably would have been overwhelmed, honestly. He really showed me the ropes when it comes to the basics like payroll and dealing with staff and how to order equipment for the plant if you need it, and dealing with budgets and all the meetings with the town manager and the WPCA and the director of public works, and I mean he really just did a lot for me, and I really do appreciate everything that you've done, Pete. And congratulations on retirement, and I wish you the best in the future. Thank you, Pete.
And Carrie, I want to so for those folks that don't know your background, I want to just give a little background on you. Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Carrie Williams enlisted in the U.S. Navy and began as a wastewater operator in training for Veolia Water in 2012. He completed 3 levels of operator certification for municipal wastewater treatment facilities by meeting the Connecticut DEEP's strict guidelines of education, experience, and exam criteria. You were hired by the town of Southington in 2017 as an operator 2 and was promoted in 2018 to assistant superintendent training under Pete. Carrie has been involved in the day-to-day operations of the plant, collection system, and pump station, including construction coordination for the plant upgrade. The other thing I would just add for folks that may not know you is that you're held in great esteem with those individuals that work with you and for you. And it's just great to have you on board. We're very, very happy. We love to see somebody come up through the ranks like you have, and it's really a wonderful thing. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have anything to say?
Madam Chair, if I could just make a comment, please.
Of course.
I would just like to echo Mark's comments and endorsement with respect to Kari. I've had about 3 years on the sewer committee with him, and he's taking the time. And again, same as Peter, you guys taking the time to answer so many of our questions, especially some of us with no scientific backgrounds. I think thank you to you, Peter. I hope you enjoy your retirement. Kari, I'm looking forward to working with you. And looking forward to my next tour of the sewer plant. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Anybody else? Yes, Chris Palmieri.
And Vicky, you and I had the pleasure of recognizing Kari for exceeding expectations.
Yes.
Last year, and not only just recognizing him for the efforts that he did, but he's also taken the time to nominate people himself, and I think that just shows really the full appreciation from everyone that works down at the treatment plant for all he's done for us, and they admire his leadership as well.
That's right. Thank you, Chris. That's very true. Thank you, Kari. And as I said, we wish you the very best. Anybody else? We're going
Madam
to.
Chair,
Yes.
my report, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Schroeder. Appreciate it.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Stallings. From what I understand, he forgoed his retirement to come into a really big rat's nest mess. And so rather than write his time out easily, he took a huge chore on. And at the same time, he untangled that mess and mentored a wonderful replacement. So I wish you a great retirement. And on behalf of the people of Southington, thanks for all you did for us.
Thank you very much.
And Kari, good luck.
You can handle it, Kari, I'm sure. All right, so let's go on to the town's attorney report.
Others?
Excuse me?
There was a couple others.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Councilwoman DiPaolo was next, and I'll go after her if that's okay.
Thank you. Sure.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to congratulate Peter as well on his retirement and Kari on coming on board. I'd like to echo Bill Dietzig's comments. I've been on the sewer committee just a short time, and I'm learning a lot. I'm looking forward to a tour of the sewer plant, and it's just been great to work with both of them so far. So congratulations to both of you. Thank you.
That's great. Very good. And Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Again, congratulations to Peter. Thanks for all the efforts, and to Kari. Looking forward to working with you. And last time I was down to the plant was just a little before the upgrades. I'd love to have an opportunity to come down and say hi and get a walk around. Is it safe to do that now? Can I reach out to you and talk to you about that, or did you want us to wait a little bit?
No, whenever you want to get a tour, just give me a call ahead of time, and we'll schedule you in, and we'll get you a hard hat and a safety vest, and make sure you got a bright orange vest on so all the contractors can see you, and we'll take a tour. We'll just be safe about it.
Thank you. And I know you guys run a tight ship there. I've been there 2 or 3 times now in the handful of years, and every time I go, I'm very impressed with the state that the plant is in and the people that are there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll reach out to you.
Yep.
Terrific. Watch yourself, Kari. Sometimes he can be overwhelming. I'm just saying. All right. Any other comments? Let's move in then to the town attorney's report. Jeremy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Say that on June 4th, we successfully closed on 2 open space parcels for the town of Southington. They are 471 and 1954 Mount Vernon Road. Just a little background, these parcels have been parcels of interest for the town for some numerous years here, even prior to this standing open space committee. They're not always easy process to go through this, so it goes from appointing properties of interest to negotiating the contract to finally getting to the closing tables here. So I do want to thank to facilitate the easy closing of these properties. And I really think they are great parcels of land. Different parcels of land. Obviously, one is a little larger on one side of the town, and one is a strategic piece that's a little smaller down in Milldale. But I think they're great assets to the town of Southington.
Thank you for all your work, Jeremy. We appreciate that. Does someone else have any comments that they would like to make? Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much. Anything else?
Thank you, ma'am.
Jeremy, is there anything else you wanted to offer?
Nothing else from me.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, public communications. For those that are listening by phone and those that are on their computer, I just want to give you 3 basic rules. There's an awful lot of background noise, Paul.
Yep, I got it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. So those that are listening by phone and those that are participating on your computer, there are 3 rules in speaking at a town council meeting. First of all, you must be a resident of Southington. So when you come and you begin to speak, you'll give your name and your address in the town of Southington. The second rule is that you will have 5 minutes to state your concern or your pleasure of something or whatever. We're here to listen to you, but you only have 5 minutes. And the last thing is we ask that you would be respectful, that you would understand that we are here to hear you. There's no need to be disrespectful. And we look forward to hearing your remarks. So those are the 3 rules. And so we're going to, I believe, Paul, we're going to start with those on the computer first. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair. What I'd like to suggest is I just typed in the comments section. For those of you who are on a computer or a mobile device, if it's possible for you to type in the chat section that just says, I'd like to speak, that'll kind of create a queue for us so we know who to call in what order. And then what we'll do is we'll start with the people who are on the computer. We'll go with who's in queue on the text chat. After the text chat, we'll open it up to the computers and folks who have not chimed in. And then, Madam Chair, after everybody who's on the computer has spoken, we'll open up all the phone lines and we'll allow the people who are on the phones to go. So it looks like, Madam Chair, I think you can see the ordering, right?
Yep, Mike Riccio is first. Mike, you are being unmuted. You're ready to go. So please give your name and address if we don't know who you are.
Yep.
You guys can hear me?
Yep. Yes, Mike.
Okay, I was on my phone as well. Mike Riccio, 124 Andrew Street, Southington. Trying to shut my phone off here. Sorry, guys. Okay. I just wanted to speak on the council resolution that you guys have presented tonight. And I wanted to express my support for that. As many of you know, I travel around the state quite a bit, and every town is handling this situation differently. And I'm not quite sure why, but there are businesses, restaurants, office businesses, medical offices that are on the verge of bankruptcy. And we can travel into the big box retailers that have been open from day one, the national chains that have been open from day one, and shop and go about our business like nothing's ever happened. But when we go into the local shops that have been in business, have been the backbone of our communities for years, generations, that are literally ready to close their doors if they haven't already closed their doors, that's disturbing. And if these businesses are ready, willing, and able to set up the health protocols that the governor's office and our local health department has set forth, then they should be allowed to open. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason coming out of the state governor's office as to the level and the protocol by which each business is allowed to open. And so I think that it's incumbent upon us as local leaders to protect our business communities and to protect our taxpayers. I think you guys are you're going to come into a situation where you're asking businesses to hold on and wait, but at the same time pay taxes. And I think if you look across the board, the average business brings 10 to 15% to the bottom line. These businesses have been literally out of business for 25 to 30% of their year. So to ask them to now maintain their payrolls and pay their taxes, I think you guys are going to have a tough road ahead. I'm not quite sure how all these businesses that we've grown and supported and brought along for all these years are going to be able to pay their taxes, and it's going to fall on you guys. And I think it's going to be a tough decision. I do want to send out strong support for Shane Lockwood and his department. I know they've been working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for months. And without Shane's guidance over my many years of public service, I'm not sure how I would have gotten by. And I know he's been a great support for you all. So this is not anything against Shane at all or his department. This is, in my opinion, for myself speaking, something that goes against what the governor's office is trying to accomplish. And I really can't figure out exactly what that is. Watching all the national who must have obviously lobbying abilities in Washington and in Hartford, all these national stores that have been able to stay open, but our local businesses are being told to sit home in their living rooms and watch their family fortunes go to zero. It's just not fair. And it's time that every Republican, this is not a political statement, by the way. Every Republican, every Democrat, and every independent stand up and fight for what we believe in and the foundation of our communities, and that is our local businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. I see that Tony Mazzarella is on the wait list. Is that right, Paul? Is he next?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Tony?
Thanks, guys. Can everybody hear me okay?
That sounds good.
All right. We hopefully have a gap here where there's no children or animals running around. So, Madam Chair and council members, upon reviewing the agenda for attachments for tonight's meeting, I was surprised.
Excuse me, Tony, please give your name and address just for the records. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Everybody doesn't know me yet?
Well,
Tony Mazzarella, 115 Johanna Circle. So upon reviewing the agenda and the attachments for tonight's meeting, I was surprised to see the item for the resolution to send a letter to the governor requesting that he use executive powers to allow all businesses, organizations, and government entities to open at their discretion, so long as they're following guidelines, and to effectively disregard the phased approach that has been put forward by the executive branch of the Department of Health. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Diedzek stated that he was wary of putting too much into resolutions and that these decisions were squarely a job for the legislature or the courts. He commended the decisions by Superintendent Conlon and Mr. Ciotta and Shane Lockwood to protect our community. Madam Chair, you yourself pointed out that we need to remember that we are in the middle of a pandemic.
Yep.
And that while it was natural to forget about the state's warning, we are talking about a health crisis that affects more than 43,000 residents, business owners, and workers in Southington. You further pointed out correctly that no one on the council has the background to effectively make these decisions. This action on the same night the council is considering action on a recommendation not to hold the Apple Harvest Festival, and just days before phase 2 goes into effect, doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Such a sudden reversal by Mr. Diedzek on social media last week, and subsequently by the town council in proposing this resolution on the eve of broader reopening, gives the appearance that the town is pandering to those who are vocally frustrated or have been influenced by the governor's political opponents, who have sought to capitalize on the difficult position the governor and health leaders have been put in navigating the many challenges of the COVID-19 crisis, as opposed to an act of thoughtful leadership. My dog does not agree with him.
He's a Republican dog.
This is not the first time the council seems to be using these resolutions. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys.
It's not a problem, Tony. It's not that loud. Don't worry.
Is it not that loud? Okay.
No, it's okay.
All right. So this isn't the first time the council seems to be using the resolutions, which, as Mr. Dezek said, carry little weight for political purposes. Just as this resolution will provide no meaningful benefit to our businesses that have already opened or will open in the coming days with the implementation of phase 2. The tolls resolution was similarly introduced when legislation was dead in the water and had been revoked by the governor. The council majority seems to value these resolutions as political tools to enhance their brand and give the illusion of action. I encourage the council and both the majority and minority members to refocus their efforts on meaningful action and decisive leadership in these troubling times. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you very much. I don't know who's next.
Tony, by the way, you're looking good. I'm glad you're back and healthy again, man.
And feeling great.
All right. Madam Chair, there's another Mike who would like to speak.
Okay.
I'm not sure if. Let me try to unmute Mike. How about now?
Mike?
Okay. Madam Chair, that is all for the folks who are on computers. And it looks like, boy, we have one person that says call in user. I'm assuming everybody else is on a computer and can unmute themselves or can unmute themselves if they would like to chime in. So if it's okay, I'll unmute call in user too. And we'll ask them if they would like to speak.
Okay.
Okay. We've unmuted the phone lines. There's one person titled call in user 2. Does anybody want to speak during public communications? It appears that everybody else has the ability to unmute themselves, Madam Chair, if they prefer. So I think that's it.
Well, we're going to give another call just to make sure if there's someone else from Southington who wishes to speak to the council. This is your time. Going once, going twice, and thank you very much for those who spoke this evening. We are going to move right into, excuse me? We are going to move directly right now into old business. I'll entertain a motion on action A, action on section 5310, the grant
To
program.
approve, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Who has a second? Yeah, Paul Chaplinsky made the motion and Jim Morelli seconded it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, I didn't give an opportunity for discussion. I'll do better at the next one. If somebody had wanted to say anything, I apologize. Okay. Item B, action on the 2020 Apple Harvest Festival.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to cancel the 2020 Apple Harvest Festival at the recommendation of the festival coordinator. And that's it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second that. Mike DelSanto, second.
That was Mike DelSanto. Okay, Mike DelSanto seconds. Let's open it up for discussion. Anybody have any discussion issues that they would like to share with us?
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Yes, who am I speaking to?
Bill Dietzek.
Oh, thank you, Bill. You're not on my screen, so go ahead, sure.
So I'm not happy with the recommendation, but I think that, Mr. LaPrey and our council representatives did enough to show us why they're doing what they're doing. So I'm not going to object, but the question I have and would like to say is that, we had so much fanfare with respect to our 50th anniversary, right? And that's half a century of harvest. And what we're going to have is we're going to have an asterisk with respect to this apple harvest. And, we're going to have an asterisk with respect to a lot of events. So it's not a standalone issue. But I would, the apple harvest is not next week. I would like to see if we could do something. So at least we have some continuity between 2019 and 2021. Even if it's a simple event. I just think that, doing nothing, we will be judged, 10, 15, 25, 50 years from now about this decision. And I just would like to see them do something, but I'm not gonna go against town staff and the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Paul?
Yep, thanks, Madam Chair. I'm kind of similar to Councilman Dietzig's position. I'm going to support the vote. And I'm going to use the phrase that we've often used in the past, is that I'd like to see us do more of trying to get to yes. It's a really difficult time right now for a lot of our residents and a lot of people in the state. And I think everybody's happy that they're finally getting to get back out a little bit in a safe way. But I think, all of us who are, part of discussions about, businesses, recreation, activities, and I think that that's even, part of the next topic is, how do we get to yes? How do we do it in a safe way? How do we provide something so that we can try to move on with our lives? And whether that's the apple harvest, whether it's, getting businesses up and running, whatever it is, how do we get to yes? And I'd like to challenge us all, when we're involved in these decisions, to think about alternative solutions that get to yes. And not in a way that violates any of the safety protocol, just working towards some kind of a yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I appreciate that. Anyone else have any discussion on this?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously this isn't something that we didn't want to have happen, but I'll share the comments with this council that I shared at the Apple Harvest Advisory Board. The worst thing that could happen, in my opinion, is that we push forward with the apple harvest, right? The vendors make plans to have the festival. The town makes plans. We spend a lot of time and resources making plans and efforts. And then all of a sudden the governor comes in with an executive order and says no fairs or festivals. So unfortunately, are we canceling out of abundance of caution? Yes, we are. But I don't think the risk reward, I don't think it's worth it for us to really push the envelope and try to plan this festival and then just have vendors lose money, and the Apple Harvest Fund would lose a lot of money. So that's kind of where my head was at when we were having these discussions. And not to mention, most importantly, if this virus is still going on, we obviously wouldn't want, or thousands of people in our downtown area. That was my rationale there.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Anybody?
Madam Chair, Mike Delson, just a point of order. I know you'd said that I asked for the second. I believe it was Mr. Palmera that asked for the second.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank you for correcting that. Yeah.
I believe Jim has a comment, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Yes. Jim, could you please come in? Yeah.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just would like to comment that I think it would be nice if we could consider to still have the parade and not the full festival. The parade encompasses a lot of different organizations and people that can be working for days in a safe manner. It's outdoors, and you could socially space the people in the parade route. During the normal festival, the parade route is completely packed, as we know. But if we have an actual festival and only a parade, the number of people in the downtown area would probably be less. That would allow us to have some kind of a festival, if you will, to carry on the tradition. And it would be a way that you could get a lot of people involved and probably be safe. And I don't know how much advance time you need to rent trucks and to really get organized, but I think you can call that one later in August probably, rather than just can't do anything.
Okay, very good.
Chair, I'm sorry, just one last thing. It should go, I know it was mentioned a little bit earlier, but thanks again to Dave LaPrey and the others who are foregoing their compensation if this vote goes through as proposed.
Yep. I would just like to add, if no one else is ready to speak, I just would like to add just a couple of things. And of course, no one wanted to hear this, but there is a reality in which we live. I would say this, that there are a lot, in terms of getting to yes, Paul, I'm glad you used that term. There's a lot of creativity on this board. There are a lot of people who think outside the box, and that's what makes it a great council to work with. I would suggest suggest that if you have ideas that are thought through and that you would like to bring them to Dave to have him consider, I think it would be fine to do. And I'm sure Dave would appreciate the communication and looking at what could be done as long as the guidelines are met. And so I would just throw that out. Just don't leave it where it is now, but let's have dialogue and consider certain things that might, in fact, be doable. If there's absolutely not activities, perhaps there's something that we can mark the festival date with. I'm not sure exactly what yet, but we can think about things. So I appreciate that, and we have a motion and a second on the board, and the motion is to officially cancel the Apple Harvest Festival as it stands right now. So with that, we're going to take a voice vote on this, please, Madam Clerk, and why don't we start?
Yes. Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo, DiPaolo, yes. Dudzik,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item C, action on the council resolution for reopening Southington. I want to just set this up before we move on it. The resolution, there's been a little bit of discussion tonight about it, and I'm going to hold my comments until we see whether or not we can have a motion on it. So I open it up for a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the council resolution. Mike Del Santo.
Yep, very good. And Paul, you're seconding it. All right, could we have some discussion on this, because we're going to be voting on it in another minute or two. Does someone have, I see your hand, Chris. I'm sure it's going to, go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. I hit the, once I saw the language in there, I did a little homework and reached out to several officials at the state level to share information with all of you. The first person I spoke to is our our Lieutenant Governor, Susan Bisowitz. I spoke directly with her. She shared with me all the science leading into the decisions and why they made it. As we know, the governor does understand and is trying to do his best for the residents, but just like the decision that we just made with the Apple Harvest Festival, despite opposition and opposition on both sides, especially again, like when we think of our festival, he did move the deadline back from the June 20. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I lost you. So the decision was based on following everything from the Commissioner of Public Health, CDC guidelines. Dr. Matt Carter, who's the state epidemiologist, was consulted. There's a lot of data that went into the decisions that they're making at the state level. And most of what's at phase 2, she was explaining, is a lot of it pertains to businesses with close personal contact and have a higher risk of transmission. Meaning like tattoo parlors, nail salons, places like that, bars, gyms, businesses like that. When we look at other countries, Korea and China are showing a resurgence for perhaps opening a little bit too soon, even some of the states, Alabama, Georgia. I also spoke over the weekend to our state commissioner of economic and community development, David Lehrman. So Mike, I know you participate in the Chamber of Commerce, so we're fortunate he actually participated Thursday with the Chamber of Commerce as well, with a video conference, that is. So, and hearing the thoughtful nature that went into the decision, that is Father's Day weekend. So they're trying to roll back the restrictions from the 20th to 17th to allow restaurants in particular more time to open up a little bit earlier before the rush that weekend. So a lot of thought went into it. It's based on scientific facts and data. And again, as I mentioned, it's easy without all those facts to maybe make decisions. And I'm sure people are going to question the decision we just made, even with the Apple Harvest Festival. So, I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. I support our businesses, but care first and foremost for the safety of all the residents, and certainly want to prevent any type of resurgence.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any statements they would like to make?
Madam Chair, may I respond? This is Bill Dietzick.
Yes, Bill, of course.
So Chris brought up a great point, right? So the governor did just advance forward phase 2 reopening. So how do we know that his advancement of phase 2 reopening was not the result of the Cromwell resolution, long-term resolution? And I guess that's my point, is that, these resolutions, again, they send messages, and I was referenced multiple times in public communication, about, I guess, what he says my personal opinion is. My personal opinion is that I equivocated on this resolution. I would have liked to have gone much further. I would have liked to have joined in a lawsuit with our health district, making up Plainville and Middlesex, and challenge the constitutionality of the governor's executive order. But I equivocated because I said, you know what? I understand people may not be willing to go as far as I am. So I said, I would like to come up with some language or work on language that maybe we can all agree on. And really, at bottom, what this is, it's a message to the business community, is that the Southington Town Council supports Southington businesses. And with all due respect, if we can't agree on this, I don't know how you can say you support local businesses if you vote against this resolution.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anybody else?
Madam Chair, it's Mike Del Santo.
Wait a minute, Chris is, excuse me, Mike, I'm going to let Chris Poulos go next. I saw his hand. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first and foremost, for the record, Chris, Councilman Palmieri, Councilwoman DiPaolo, and I are huge supporters of local businesses. Okay, we've been proud to support them. We want to reopen our town just as much as everyone else. We want to do it safely. We want to do it as soon as possible. In fact, if you recall back to the May 11th Town Council meeting, at one point during that meeting, I shared a suggestion that we consider blocking off the streets in downtown Southington for outdoor dining. And shortly after that suggestion, the reopening committee, the town staff, the police were able to make that happen. The town went slow. They took careful steps. They planned out the traffic route. They got it done in a thoughtful and safe way. It was in a way that probably no one had anticipated with the partial closing, but it was done with collaboration, and it was done well. And I applaud the reopening committee for their work on that. I think that I just, have a few questions, I guess, in terms of how the letter came to be. And I'm hoping that I can ask some questions through the chairwoman and maybe find out some answers so I could inform myself on this vote. First question is, I got this as Councilman Palmieri mentioned. We got this letter on Thursday in our packets. I'm wondering where the decision to write the letter came from, who actually wrote the letter, and then I would have follow-up questions once I knew that. Is there a particular counselor that wrote this letter? Was it collectively written?
It was collectively written. It was collectively written, and we asked the town attorney to pen it for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So then my next question would be, in that writing or in that decision-making process for the counselors that did write it, did they consider the health director or any other health officials in the writing of that letter? What were the health data that were considered when the letter was used, if you did consider health data?
Well, I appreciate your question, Chris. When we listened to Shane tonight, we learned that things are wonderfully stable now. I was pretty slow because there were a few criteria that I felt that was extremely important for if we were going to carry this through. As Bill Dietzick said, there was some feeling that this approach was not strong enough. But the first thing was I did not want it to be an attack on the governor, because I believe the governor is working from the information that he has, but he sees things with a broad brush. And so the first thing I said is that we must, if we do this, we must not make it an attack on the governor, but we must realize that every community is different. If we saw a huge spike in cases, if we saw a huge number of deaths, we would not be having this discussion. But as the data shows that we're stabilizing in Southington, now we need to move cautiously. This is a very cautious resolution. It says that businesses would have to follow the criteria that the state has implemented to the satisfaction of our health director. And only in terms of the date, if we can push up an opening by thoughtfully considering the safety and the criteria set up by the governor, then that 1 week can make a huge difference in our businesses. You know, I think about one business in particular, the Pepper Pot it hasn't been open in so long, and I've had many conversations with Sue, and they are bleeding money. So it's for me, it was the fact that we've stabilized the numbers, as Shane has indicated, and that this is a very cautious way to move forward. And it says that all of our businesses are essential for our tax base, for going forward. Let's face it, they are all essential. They can't tell us that dog grooming is more essential than somebody's restaurant. So we need to move cautiously. So that was the other factor.
Okay, I just have a follow-up question. Was the town manager, town staff consulted in terms of like town having the capacity to support businesses as we reopen to ensure safe implementation? Did you have conversations with Mark Schoda and Shane Lockwood, or were you just going on other information that like reports for council meetings?
I have conversations with Shane Lockwood 3 or 4 times a week. And this particular resolution does not affect his workload, in that he is already monitoring businesses and he is already giving his input on the way things should progress healthfully. So having said that, I think that it pretty well gives a response. Now, as I said, those criteria I thought were important. You receive the resolution, if you want to call it a resolution, I call it a letter, but you received the letter when we all got the letter back. And it was important for us to move forward at this time. I'm still very cautious. I'm still very careful about not throwing criteria under the bus. I believe we need to follow criteria, but this is a way we can stand with our businesses and still allow them to function carefully and systematically. So that I think I answered all your questions, Chris, and I appreciate that you presented it in a very respectful manner, and I do appreciate that very much, I want to tell you. So that's where we are, and if you don't have any other questions, I'll entertain more questions. Okay. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Madam Chair, it's Mike Del Santo.
Yes, Michael, I'm sorry. Yep.
We heard from Mr. Riccio earlier in public communications. I was downtown this weekend, and I spoke with a local restaurateur, and he looked at me with such a defeatist attitude. He's like, great, on the 17th, we can open up again at 50% capacity. He said, that's 9 tables. And, you know, we have to force people to get up and leave, because those 9 tables can't sustain us. If you were on the cusp of going out of business before this pandemic hit, for whatever reason, you didn't make it through. I know I have relatives that own beauty shops. They just closed up shop. They're raring to go on May 20th. Once it was told to them, that's it, we're closing down we're going to push it back to June 1st. They shut down. You know, businesses are struggling. This letter tells local businesses we support them, we're here for them. Anything we can do to get them opened earlier and more than some of these very strict restrictions that the government has put upon them, every little bit helps. So that's all I need to say. I've looked in a lot of business owners' eyes over the last 2 or 3 weeks that, look for me for support from the town. What can we do? We're scratching, we're clawing. Can we shut down roads? Can we have more tables out on the sidewalk? Can we put tents up? This letter is just an extension of that. This letter tells Southington business owners that we support you and we're here for you.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else? Chris Palmeri, did you have your hand up?
Paul's been waiting. If you want to call on him
I'm
first.
sorry. Paul, did you want to speak first or did you want to let Chris go?
No, Chris can go. It's fine.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Just a couple other things. I think it's important, as Chris said, this isn't a matter of supporting our local businesses or not. It's a matter of making a decision based on the facts that are before us and what we can do to try to prevent any type of resurgence, because the last thing any of us want is to see any type of resurgence with this. So, a couple other pieces of information that I want to share that I learned. Connecticut is opening in a more aggressive fashion than our neighbors to the north and south. So Massachusetts and New York are opening at a slower pace than Connecticut. So that's reassuring to hear that, Connecticut is trying to reopen and allow businesses to operate fully again sooner. And there were 300 new cases just on Saturday. So, again,
Is that within the state, though? You're talking within the state.
Yeah. I hope there weren't 300 in Southington.
Well, no, I'm just wondering because Shane just told us we're stable here in Southington.
No. And I also, I know, Vicky, you said you talked to Shane a couple times a week, but Chris asked specifically if Shane was consulted for this decision. So I don't know if you did. I did speak to him about this decision, and he shared this really isn't a decision for him to make. So I don't think there was any weighing in from Shane, because like I said, I did reach out to him personally, and he shared with me that he didn't feel that, this was a decision for him to get involved in.
Right. It wouldn't be. That's why I didn't specifically go to him, because it's not his decision. But his duties would be the same. His duties would be the same. It would be to monitor.
Yeah. And, just thinking of Shane too, I'm sure we all got the email. There was the softball tournament that was going to be in Connecticut. And I think the gentleman that emailed us was from New York and upset because of a decision made. I think Dave, you're still here, and Shane weighed in on it, and similarly, I supported the recommendation because the decision is being made not because they're happy with it or want to do it, but it's based on science and data and the doctors and CDC guidelines, and and yet people are questioned all the time for decisions made. So again, we are moving it. The governor did move it back a couple days, and so there is some opportunity to have a plan to open before a big, hopefully, weekend with Father's Day. So I think there is thought going into these decisions, and science and data is being considered.
Thank you, Chris. Paul.
Yep, Madam Chair, thanks. For me, this is a lot about businesses and getting, how do we get to yes? And I don't see enough of how do we get to yes. I appreciate some of the comments a little bit earlier. I've been trying to make it a point to be downtown and supporting our businesses as they've been opening. And I've been to a number of restaurants now, and I ask them when I go sit down, how's business? And I get, all things considered, we're trying to hold it together. I asked a couple times this weekend that I had gone out, what's your volume right now? 25% they're at. 25% with outdoor dining, and they're going to go to 50%. That's barely scratching the surface for them. And I would argue that 50%, somebody who has 50% of a small facility who normally has 100 customers at a time packed in a very tight place might be different than somebody who doesn't normally. So that somebody may set their same building footprint up and only have normally 50 customers in the same footprint. So by the governor setting an arbitrary number, like saying 50% of your normal capacity, that is an arbitrary number. It's completely arbitrary, and that's part of the problem that we have here. You know, for me, I would like to see guidelines that say, how do we get to yes? Here is what is required to be safe. Here's what you need to do to be safe. You need to have X distance, 6-foot spacing. You have to have a partition or not a partition. You have to sanitize, X times per every time somebody sits down. Whatever the safety factor is, that's what we're looking for here. Putting arbitrary information out there that can be different for very similar situations doesn't help the situation. And so, for me, I'm looking for clarity from the governor to give us guidelines that are clear, that can be translated across all of our businesses, because our businesses are suffering right now. They've been suffering for months, and we have to find a way to get back to how do we get back to yes? I'm advocating for safety. I thought that that this letter was thoughtful in that it puts out there the opportunity for the governor to continue to give guidelines and ask municipalities like Southington to abide by the guidelines, and merely ask our health director to verify that we're meeting the guidelines. I mean, that's not too much to ask. And part of the issue that we've had in the past is there haven't been clear guidelines. What we've heard things like indoor is more hazardous than outdoor, and so we're going to hold off until X date. So when we talk about scientific data, what's the scientific data that shows indoor is a certain is more hazardous than outdoor? And then follow that up with, and which I don't doubt, by the way, follow that up with what methodologies could we use or deploy to make indoor safe, and how do we show that? How do we demonstrate that? I don't see any of that type of data. I see, and then I hear things like hospitalizations, or I hear things like numbers of cases are down. Those are the same types of could be misleading representations, because even our health director tells us in our weekly updates, he says, yes, the number of cases might have gone up, but we also know that we're significantly increasing the number of tests that we're doing. So for us to say the number of cases is going up and that's a concern, it's certainly a concern, but it might not be a statistically significant trend that we make decisions on reopening on. So for me, I'd like this letter to represent, we want conclusive scientific data that tells us, how do we make our businesses safe so that we can support our businesses? How do we do that? And then allow us to do it. Let us do the opening with our health director's guidance and ensure that we're following that scientific data. That's all we're asking.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I'm trying to follow those people that want to make a comment, Paul. Jim, did you want to say anything on this?
I do. Thank you, Vicki.
Okay, and then I have Val up right after Jim. Val.
I want it to be known that I was actually a naysayer on this in the beginning, because I didn't really see what we were trying to accomplish. But once I understood, I am wholeheartedly for it. Again, a couple of things. Science and data. So I'd like to know what data the governor used to change the date of opening from the 20th to the 17th. So he knows that in 3 days, there'll be zero impact on any kind of impact on the society. I doubt it. I do think that all the things that have put into place already are arbitrary. They're protective. So again, all we're asking for is a private business that got shut down by the governor's say so should have the opportunity to open back up if they follow the proper procedures. So again, you shouldn't be able to tell me that I can't operate my business if I'm willing to operate my business in a socially respectable, safe manner, period. That's to me what we wrote the letter for. It sends a clear message to the governor that we need to have a different tact or a different way forward. And again, it protects every business in Southern. That's the intent.
Thank you, Jim. Val, you wanted to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I respect everybody's comments. This is really a difficult issue, and we're all going to have some different opinions on it. Just a couple points. I'm a business owner in Southington, and we have struggled with how quickly to reopen our firm, and we're trying to balance protecting our staff and our clients, and with the money that brings in versus the health and safety for everybody. I have immediate family members that are business owners. I've talked with them at length. And, we might even disagree on some of this. But I guess, to Councilman Chaplinsky, I feel like we have been getting to yes. The governor has relied on a whole host of people, the CDC and all the state guidance that he's receiving. There's guidelines in place, and that's with a plan. That's how you get to yes. I understand what Councilman Chaplinsky is saying, but I feel like we are getting there. We signed a statement that said that as elected officials, we need to foster the well-being of the people in our community. So I really believe that the health and safety of our community is so critical. And I've talked to some business owners that have been very pleased with the process. So, I feel like we are getting to yes. And I think you do that by following guidelines and having a plan. So
Thank you, Val. Thank you very much. I'm just going to do a closing statement. Anybody else? And that is, I would just say, for me, we have a certain obligation for determining our next steps, taking into account the safety and the safeguards in place. My desire is not to go against the safeguards, to be adhering to the criteria that has been designated by the governor. However, I think that the governor sees things with a broad stroke. That's his job. He looks at the state of Connecticut as a whole. We follow the edicts that are the best for Southington, and we do want to stay safe. I keep saying that. However, for us not to be listening to the voices, not only of safety, but also of getting our workforce back in place. That is why I'm involved. This is what changed my mind. It has nothing to do with not believing in the safeguards. I certainly do, and so does, I believe, the rest of our contingency. But I do believe that we have an obligation to listen to all of our residents and constituents, and to, in fact, look at things not as just mere puppets, but to look at things and how we can relate that to the people and the businesses of Southington. And so that's where we are right now. I am going to call.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair? I'm sorry, and I don't know if it'll change anybody's mind, but while we're sitting here in the meeting, the WHO organization just came out with a notice that asymptomatic spread of COVID-19 is rare between people. Asymptomatic spread of COVID-19 is rare person to person. That just came out.
Well, that's
so that's
great.
a very interesting. That's a very interesting study that was just published by the.
That's terrific. Okay, we're just going to close. I think we have all had a chance to voice our opinions, to think about things. I think we're going to call the motion right now. We have a motion before the council. Madam Clerk, who made the motion?
I believe I did.
Was that Mike?
Mike Del Santo.
Mike
Santo, and who seconded it?
Paul did.
And Paul did. Okay, so there is a motion before us to approve an action on the town council resolution for reopening Southington. So, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on this? I want it to be very clear to the people in town and to the governor where we stand.
I want to be very clear. I support local business, but I'm a no vote on this for the health and safety of our residents.
Thank you.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
I would also like to say that I support our local businesses 100%, but I am a no vote on this resolution.
Bezick,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yeah.
Palmieri,
No.
Triano.
Yes, thank you, everyone. We will, those of us that have, who are supporting this resolution, I believe all of our names should be on the resolution, signing the resolution. Lara will take note and pass it on. Also, I would like the resolution to be shared with the Chamber of Commerce. And Mike, your subcommittee, please, to let them know that this has gone to the governor's office and that there are those that have supported it and those that have not. But we want the business community to know that we're trying to move forward. Thank you, everybody.
Madam Chair.
Somebody said, Madam Chair. Oh, you said yes.
Well,
Mike,
Madam
it was
Chair.
you. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mike. All right, tax refunds, Val?
Yes, Madam Chair, I will make a motion that we approve the tax refunds as outlined in our packet.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Fine, all of those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Appointments, Parking Authority, one member, term ending in November. Mark, you have the appointment?
Yes, I do. I hereby appoint D. Babkirk, who will be appointed to the Parking Authority to a term expiring November 2023.
Thank you so much. Yes, Tom Lombardi?
Do we need any motion on that, or are we all set?
No, that's an appointment by the town manager.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to table the library board appointment until our next meeting.
Okay, you're going to table the library board. Is there a second on that?
Second, yep.
Second by Paul Chaplinsky. Open up for discussion. Anybody?
Well, no discussion.
Chris?
I have a point, but not on the motion because there's no discussion. So do you want to call the vote first?
Yeah, let's call the vote first, and then so there's a motion. There's an awful lot of background noise, Paul.
Yeah, if everybody can just put their phones on mute when you're not talking, that'd be great.
Thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, Chris, it goes back to the appointment. Is that what this is?
Yes, I don't know if you want to call the vote first because there's no.
Yeah, let me just do that, and then I can go back and we can take your comment. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table the appointment to the library board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the table carries. Chris, you wanted to go back?
Yeah, I just want to make 2 points. Both the library board and the parking authority are both currently Democrats. We have minority representation on all these boards. I cannot believe that we weren't even consulted. You made motions. We weren't even consulted. And library board, for example, there's 9 members, 6 are Republicans, and you're making a motion, a Democratic appointment. And it's upsetting because we've never done that. In fact, as you know, we gave up some seats that could be Democrats to Republicans for appointment.
Yeah, we've done the same thing, Chris. So it doesn't have to be a Democrat. You know that. You know that. It doesn't have to be a Democrat. It will not be a Republican, but it doesn't have to be a Democrat. And so we're going to move forward on this thing. So we've tabled the library board. We are now going on to item 3. The ethics
Chair, I'd
alternate.
like to make a motion to appoint Joe Pugliese for the ethics board alternate.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Pulis,
I'm sorry. What was the motion? I was with the audio.
The motion is for.
Pugliese.
Shut down that noise.
Yeah, it might be coming from your side, Madam Chair. I apologize.
Seems like it's quiet now. So, Chris, the motion was for Joe Puglisi to take the ethics alternate position. It's a Republican seat on the Board of Ethics.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo, DiPaolo,
Yes.
Zick,
Yes.
Lombardi. Tom,
Lombardi?
is that a yes from Tom?
Yes, that is. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ellie,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, that's it. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Somebody want to make the motion?
So moved.
See your hand. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joe, by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. We appreciate you. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care, everyone. Good night.